Okay. Um, I guess I'm just now getting to figure it out how to do this stuff with some voice recording. Um, I was gonna show you all a way I learned not too long ago on how to do some skin retouching on Photoshop, but I'm just gonna go ahead and show you all how I would edit this from beginning to end in the process. Um, I always start, and there goes playing. I always start everything on Lightroom um, instead of Camera Raw. I feel like I got a few more options in here than you will usually get on Camera Raw. Um, Pretty much what I will do here, besides the cropping, uh, will be some lens correction, and in this case I could probably which I already done, is straighten up, level up using the eye pupils and level up the photo, and you can see how how tight I cropped it already just for this video. If I was actually wanting to edit it and I was going to use it, I wouldn't have cropped it this tight, so I could use some of the surrounds, maybe Photoshop some backdrop in, but in this case I'm not going to do that. Usually from here, after I got done with all that, I'm just going to send it to Photoshop by doing Command E. It should send it to Photoshop, and there we go, just like that. And here I'm gonna create a layer so I can work on that layer and leave the original untouched. So on this skin retouching, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on some blemishes and stuff first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna percent. I'm gonna start with Jesus, I forgot what it was called. There we go. Spot hidden brush. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna start with here. Get rid of some of this stuff here. Some of these black marks is probably from the makeup. I'm gonna take them off. Maybe some of this right here. And sometimes if you're working with a client, they might not want you to retouch it. If they got like scars and stuff like that, they might want to keep them. So it's important when you work with a client, paying client, to ask them how much you want or how much they would like you to retouch. Some will ask you, hey, retouch everything, just take everything off. Some will just ask you to leave certain things on, like scars or birthmarks, stuff like that, stuff that they they like to keep because it's who they are. Others would tell you to take them off, but in this case, just for this video, we're gonna go almost all out, so to speak. Get some of that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna zoom back out. let's see this part right here. Maybe take that off. And maybe some of these eyelashes that are falling in the white of the eye, maybe take them off. Maybe this little vein here. Yeah. Spot healing works pretty good a lot of times. This little veins right here, sometimes if it doesn't take them all the way off, it'll keep them like a low opacity, so that would work too. I mean, you know, it's part of the eye, so I don't worry about those very much. Don't want to get these parts solid white because they don't look weird. Maybe some of these brows right here, take them off. And that one there. Okay, that looks good. So what I'm gonna do, since I already worked on that layer, I don't really want to keep working on that same layer because it might affect some of the other stuff I already done. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flatten that, and then I'm gonna create another layer. Okay, so here's the other way I learned how to work on skin retouching. So on a new layer, we're gonna hit Command I so we can invert it, and you see how it's gonna turn into like a negative. In here you're gonna see a lot of details that otherwise you wouldn't see if it was on the regular way. So you can actually come in here and work on the ones that are kind of white like that. If you want to, if there was any, you could do it right here because they'll be more visible than they would have been the other way. Anyways, once you invert it and it turns like this, you can then go to your blending modes right here, and we're gonna use vivid light, and it's gonna like completely disappear. You can see some of the highlights and stuff still showing. You see the really highlight or really dark might show up in here. So once you're there, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go to filters, we're gonna go to others and do a high pass on it. And don't freak out, it's supposed to look like this. And what I do here is I'm gonna adjust this where it's blurred, but what I'm looking is at color tones and see how they blend in together when you got it kind of blurred like this. I'm not looking for any details right now. Right now I'm just looking how one color tone transfers to the next one next to it. I want to make sure there's a smooth transition from one color to the other tones on there. So usually 24 on around that time, around this number right here works pretty good when you got close-ups like this. So we're gonna hit OK there, and then while we are there, we're gonna go to Gaussian blur, and you see how it kind of brings all the details back. And if you go less, you start bringing some of the blur out. If you put more blur, what it's doing is it's working backwards because we had the image inverted. So now everything's got a little bit backwards, but you can see better how to do it. In this case, we're gonna go around almost 5, and you see that it's all this blur here, but you can see still the skin texture on it, and that's very important because you don't want it to look like plastic. And I think in this technique right here, it works really good for that. So once we got it there, we're gonna hit OK. Now what we're gonna do next is we're gonna create layer mask, but we want it filled with black. So on Windows will be Alt and then the mask button down here. On Mac will be Option. If you get the Alt Option key, hold it down and then click on here, it'll give you a black mask on there. And I'm sure a lot of you already knew that. So in here I'm going to get me a brush so I can paint some of that stuff that I already adjusted, some of those adjustments on this skin here. Get me a soft brush. I'm going to leave everything at 100% because we can always bring the opacity down and adjust it that way. So what we want to do is start painting with a soft brush, and what we want to do is kind of stay off of like eyelashes, eyebrows. In here I'm going to go over because you can always take some of it off, and I'm going to show you how here in a minute. But you can actually start seeing how it's smoothing the skin, and you can also tell that there is some texture on the skin. I actually don't like to do the tip of the nose or right here, this part right here. I'm not gonna touch that. I'm also gonna leave this part here alone, and of course stay off the lips. Right there. Go back over this way. I actually like to do this right here. This part right here, usually because of the depth of field or whatever, usually it's gonna end up being more softer than the face. So what you can do there is, let me get that off. What you can do there is you can actually brush out on a lower opacity on the brush, like say 35. That way you're not painting as much as you were on the face. Put some there. Okay. Get this back to 100 and keep it touching here. Now because you're working on another layer, you start getting some of this double ghosting looking stuff right here. No problem. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change our color brush back to black so we can then take off some of that. So the way I like to do it is I increase the size of the brush a little bit so that I can just work with the since we're on a soft brush, we can just work with the feathering of it instead of the whole brush, and just let the feathering from the brush do its work. So see, I'm not really going all the way to the jawline. I'm just letting the feathering do all the work there, and see how it takes that out. Cool. And also I'm gonna take it off of the eyelashes and the eye so we can bring more detail back into that in the eyelashes. Oops. Right there. Bring some of that detail back. And this is just by painting black back on the mask. And also I'm gonna bring some back on the lips just to make sure that none of it got there, right here on the edge of the nostrils right there. All right, and That's pretty good. So yeah, there's a lot of people don't like this much skin work. Um, some of us do. It depends on what you're going for or what you're trying to accomplish. So you can always come back here to the opacity and bring it down. And let's say if you went 50%, or here's the difference. Let me turn it back to 100%, and you'll see right here the difference if we turn it off and on, off, and on, off. And now you see the difference right there. So we're gonna bring it down. I want to say about 50%. That should be good. It's not too much, but it's still noticeable. You can even go maybe like 64, something like that. That's pretty good. So yeah, that's a cool technique. It really doesn't take that long. The more you do it and learn how to do it, the quicker you'll get with it. I like it because you still see a lot of detail on the skin. It's not really looking like plastic, too much like plastic. The more you bring it down, let's see, we bring it all the way to 0. And of course, this model, she doesn't really need it. She's got beautiful skin, but if you want to make it even more for, I don't know, a beauty magazine or whatever, this technique does a pretty good job, as long as you're kind of doing it in the close-ups like this. That's just in my opinion. So from here I will be done. If I was done here and I was happy with it, this will be it. And from here, if I hit Command S, it will save it back as a TIFF file back in my Lightroom. Should be coming on. There we go.